Victor Perton here on behalf of the Australian Leadership Project. Today we're joined by Sally Foley-Lewis, the author of The Productive Leader. Look, welcome. It's yet another exciting event for the Australian Leadership Project. I'm talking to Sally Foley-Lewis. Sally needs no greater introduction than the author of The Productive Leader. She's sought after internationally from the Middle East to the Americas. And a very popular speaker here in Australia. So thank you for joining us, Sally.
Oh, that's a fantastic introduction. Thank you. Appreciate that, Victor. It's great to be here.
Oh, thank you. Well, Sally, if we can open up with our usual question we ask of our guests. What's your favourite story of a boss or a leader that you've had?
Oh, look, I think one of the bosses that I've worked with just recently, her name is Carmel, and she is a visionary. And one of the things she does, which tickles my heart, is that she says yes and then works out how to make it happen. And she is a dynamic leader of a really significant early childhood education centre in Brisbane. And when you look at that centre, you can see her fingerprints all over it. She led the drive to become a centre of excellence, which childcare centres don't need to do. However, the value and the vision that she saw in that was just phenomenal. And I love that she says yes and then says, how do we make it happen? So that's one of the things, one of the leaders I really love. I think one of the stories that I love hearing is when it's not about leaders who are in position, it's actually behaviour. So when we have people who share a story that demonstrates a value in action, that really sings to me as well. So it doesn't have to be the CEO or the head of a department. It could be the most operational frontline employee who says, did I tell you about the time when this happened? And their eyes light up and they know they've made a customer experience or they've saved money or their idea got implemented. I mean, I get goosebumps when I hear those stories, because to me, that's the leader within. And I love that. And we need more of that.
Oh, you give me goosebumps too. My expression is one I've inherited from Martin Parkinson, the head of the Prime Minister's Department, who says the leader looks like the person in your mirror. And the mantra I give other people is, the leader looks like the person in my mirror. But anyway, let's move on. I mean, you've been an expert at looking at all sorts of leaders around the world. What do you see as the unique qualities of Australian leadership?
Well, I can't speak for other Aussies. I can only speak from my own experience. And when I have been willing and eager to step up and put more skin in the game is when I have a leader who hasn't wanted to play games, isn't on about the power, isn't on about overly invested in the politics of an organisation or the culture. The leader who will own up when they don't know or has made a mistake. And I think that to me is the authenticity. And I know authenticity is a bit of a buzzword, we're sick of hearing it, but I'm talking the genuine stuff, the real deal. When I've had a leader who can back an idea, and if it doesn't go too well, they don't disappear on you. You know, they're actually there in the fight with you and back you and say, well, what have we learned from this? And what are we never going to do again? Because of course we've got to take a lesson, but they don't disappear when things go rough. And I think that's what resonates for me when we're talking about the qualities of leaders. I think it's about being able to roll your sleeves up and drive performance from within the team. You know, we talk about leading from behind, leading from the front, but sometimes we just need to sit down and get into it and be with the team. So I think that's an element as well, or a quality of a good leader.
Yes, no, look, I've had some Argentinians tell me they've had some Australian bosses and they're always blown away by the fact that they'd pour a bottle of wine at a reception, or they'd stop and wash the dishes or collect the dishes afterwards, which was just something you see in other societies. So
then that's our cultural power relevance thing that plays there. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think it comes from our egalitarian traditions, and you know, that's the leaders. So one of the things that started us on this project, the Australian Leadership Project, is this, you know, we live in the best of possible societies in the world. Australians live very well, but there there seem to be a lot of complaints and a lack of confidence in the leadership, business or corporate. What are you seeing? What do Australians want of their leaders today?
I think they want a leader who will say yes, a leader who will acknowledge and lead by example. And when I mean, and I know we hear that a lot, but in a really specific way, we need to back ourselves. So as leaders, we need to take a seat at the table. Don't wait to be asked. You know, Meg Wheatley said it beautifully when she said, proceed until apprehended. And I think that let's face it, we're not stupid. We want to do a good job. You basically know what you're supposed to be doing. And if you don't, then ask. But as a leader, proceed until apprehended. Take that seat at the table. Stop waiting to be asked to be there. Speak up and apply that same element, apply that same ideal to your team.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely brilliant, Sally. Sally, tell me, who have been the leaders in your life? I mean, who's inspired you to this fantastic work you're doing globally and helping leaders to be more productive and better leaders?
Oh, thank you. I think my childhood leader that goes back to when I was in primary school was Mr. Alan Nolan. Now, he was my grade 7 teacher. So back then, that was the last year of primary school. And by the time we got to grade 7 and had Mr. Nolan, we as a class were robbed. We were denied justice when it comes to a school camp. Now, is the school camp important? No, not really, but it was back then. But instead of just us sitting around complaining, Mr. Nolan shifted us into campaigning and actually stepping up and saying, well, if you feel you've been robbed of a camp, what are you going to do about it? And we shifted out of complaining into campaigning and got to go camping. And so, you know, with Mr. Nolan, see, I'm 47, I still call him Mr. Nolan. When Mr. Nolan was there to guide us through the process of what we needed to do to actually take action and get a sense of achievement and to stand up for what we thought was right, that was just gold. That was a piece of education beyond books and numbers. And obviously it's been an important measure for me in my life. So that was phenomenal. A more contemporary story or leader who really showed some great insight around who you have in a team was Lyndall Hanson, who I used to work with in North Queensland. Now, Lyndall told the team that she was going to bring in a client as an employee, and we all kind of thought, no, we can't, he's so difficult to work with, he's so this, he's so that, and all the whinging went on. And then Lyndall said, hang on a minute, this is the skill set that we're actually lacking. This is what this person will bring to our team. And that flick of the switch was just dynamite for, number one, actually reminding us that we're all different and that we've got different strengths to bring to the table, and to look at this person in a different light. And it showed me this person could see beyond what was uncomfortable to make sure she got what was right. And I thought that was just gold.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you for sharing those stories. You are such an optimistic and an effervescent person. What is it that makes you so optimistic, Sally?
Look, I think I'm a little bit like Carmel, who I talked about at the top of the interview. I'm the type of person who'll say yes and then go, how do we make it happen now? And do I have down days? Of course I do. And I think they're important to have in order to have that perspective. But it's the bouncing back. It's the getting back up on top. And it's about understanding that there's going to be a lesson in everything we do. There's going to be an opportunity in everything that comes our way. And I think we are totally and utterly bombarded by enough negativity and comparison. I think we suffer from comparisonitis. That's my new word. And so what we probably could do with is changing our own attitude, our reframe. You know, I work with a lot of middle managers, and so what happens is that there's this, I've got to have a difficult conversation, or this person's terrible to work with, or I'm sick of telling this employee what to do. Now, all that negativity is basically the setup for a negative situation, a negative outcome. So I see my job as going in and saying, hang on a second, what is it you actually want? Well, I want change, I want improvement, I want this. So the conversation you're going to have is actually a helpful one, rather than a negative or difficult one. So I think it comes back to us. I know this is a really cliche old analogy, but when you point the finger at someone else, there's three fingers pointing back at you. And that's the piece. I think that, when I show up into a conversation, how I show up invites the response. And so that's the sort of thing I think we could do with boosting some more optimism into.
When we look at global leadership, I did an interview with Dominic Barton, the global CEO of McKinsey's, and he says all good leadership must be optimistic. As you said earlier, giving other people the right to lead, authority to lead. When things go right, give them the credit. When things go wrong, take the responsibility yourself. So for you as a leader, talking to other leaders and looking at the world around you, what's the case for optimism? Why should people be optimistic and looking forward to a better world or a better workplace?
Because I think that more opportunities will come out of it. And one of the examples that's in my head right now is the streams that we see in social media of these initiatives that people have started to clean up oceans or to recycle rubber to make new roads. And I'm not that innovatively clever like that, but those sorts of things that come through your news feed, they give me optimism. They give me hope. They remind me that we've got some smart people out there doing really smart things. And how do I take that emotion and bring that into my workplace so that I can trigger that in my team? We are role models. I remember working with one leader who didn't realise that her arrival at 6 a.m. every morning and departure at 9 p.m. every evening was noticed and followed. She just did not know that was going on, and everyone was exhausted and burnt out and stressed, and because they thought that was the expectation. And so it's that, what do I bring? How can I find things that are happening in my world that really boost me up and bring that into the workplace? That's where I think there's a case for optimism.
Sally, look, when I read your book, the energy sang to me. And being able to join you in this interview, it's just completely energizing. So thank you for your time today, and best wishes with the fantastic work you're doing globally.
Thank you so much, Victor. It's been a pleasure to be optimistic with you.
Well, it's a great thank you again to Sally Foley-Lewis. If you'd like to share your wisdom and your insights on Australian leadership, please go to our website at australianleadership.com. You'll see lots of interesting material and links to contact us or to start sharing your own views through the links at the bottom of each interview. And please have a great day, lead with optimism and confidence.